Hello and welcome to another episode. I want to talk about how not everything is solved by HRT, okay? I know we want it to be. I know we want that pill for an ill. I get it. We live in that world. We live in a world where we're used to going to the doctor and we're used to getting a pill for something that's going on, whether it be a sleep issue or an anxiety issue or a pain issue, right? We live in that world where we've got convenience at every single turn. Like I grew up in a time where we had to get up off the couch and twist the knob on the television to change the channel. We didn't have mobile phones when I was, gosh, we didn't really have them until I was in my early 20s. That's how much I'm aging myself. So I get it. We live in this world of convenience. We want things fast. We want things quick. We want things easy. But I have to implore you to slow down a little when it comes to HRT. What I mean by that is don't think that it is going to be the magic solution. I've seen many women run to HRT first and foremost, and then come to me wondering why it's not doing what they thought it would do. So I actually was having these conversations with a client recently. So she came in to work with Michelle and I, and she was on HRT, but she was struggling with the HRT. And this can happen when you're on HRT. It's not just quick, easy, and simple. The doctor gives you a prescription, but that dose that the doctor gives you, the dose that they give you may not be the dose that you stay on. There's some trial and error that can occur. You're bringing hormones into the body. The body is going to really go, going to shift a bit and go, what is this stuff? And your cycle might get a little wonky. Like there's things that can occur. So she was getting concerned at the, I guess we'll quote, side effects that were occurring from the HRT that she was taking. And I had to really strip it all back. And I said to her, can I just ask, are you on HRT? Because she was only, how old was she? I think she was about 40. And yeah, you can go on HRT around that time, but her main symptoms weren't quite warranting a knee-jerk reaction to HRT. So I just said to her, let's strip it all back. Tell me why you decided to go on HRT. And long story short, we had this whole conversation about the things that really should come first. And so these are things like your diet. These are things like your lifestyle, meaning, are you moving your body? Are you moving your body too little? Are you moving your body too much? Are you doing the right kind of exercise? Things like your sleep, right? Have you dialed your sleep in? Now, listen, if you're really struggling to sleep, HRT can help. And maybe you do bring it in quite quickly to get you to sleep. There's always these caveats, but regardless of whether you're going to bring that HRT in right away or you're going to wait and lay the foundations first, it doesn't matter. You've always got to lay the foundations. The foundation should always be looked at. There's a lot of women who think that they can bypass those foundations. They think, no, I'm just going to grab some estrogen, some progesterone, and I'll feel great. I don't need to do the stool testing. I don't need to spend the money to do stool testing or spend the money to do HRT, HTMA testing, hair tissue mineral analysis, or blood work, or spend the money on coaching for somebody to tell me, have a look at my diet, see where I'm lacking in my diet to support me with balancing my blood sugar. All of these things are absolutely fundamental. If you don't get them right, HRT, it might actually work for a while, but trust me, there are going to be things that pop up that HRT is, you can't whack-a-mole these things with HRT. So never make that mistake thinking that HRT is a magic solution. And I know that right now, in the online social media wellness, functional wellness, holistic wellness space, there is a lot of talk about HRT. There are so many doctors who have come online in the recent years and other kind of clinicians who have come online and they're talking a lot about HRT. And I've been one of them. But I've kind of recently my content has shifted a little. I'm not going to not talk about HRT. I believe in it. I think it's a longevity strategy, but I don't want people to think it's the only strategy. And so I really want my content to reflect that the foundational work is and always has been the most important, and then you layer on top the HRT. But at the moment, when we look online, what we see are all these people, doctors talking about HRT. And listen, something that can happen is that and I've seen this happen even with mentors and colleagues of mine who are amazing people, but when they get pigeonholed or fixated on a topic, whether it be gut health, whether it be protein, right? I've seen it in so many people online. They get fixated on protein is the most important thing, and that's all they speak about. Or HRT is the most important thing. And so that's all they speak about. Or if somebody's having a symptom, they immediately jump to it being a hormonal symptom or a hormone deficiency symptom that requires HRT. That's not always the case, right? Or they get pigeonholed and fixated on the gut. And this becomes to the detriment of other things because you know what? Protein is important. Building muscle is important. But when all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So this camp are only talking about muscle and protein to the detriment of the plants and the gut work that needs to be done to support inflammation and gut work, right? And the HRT camp are only focused on HRT to the detriment of the gut work that maybe needs to be done, or the nutrient work, right? Or the gut people are fixated on the gut to the detriment of the protein that needs to be consumed, or the muscle mass that needs to be gained. I try very hard not to get fixated and pigeonholed into any one topic because I tell you, I see it so much and it does women so much harm. So I'm trying to have a little bit more of a open-minded and diverse amount of content out there that reminds you protein is important. Building muscle is important. Eating plants for your gut microbiome is critically important, and reducing saturated fat. HRT is important. Looking at your nutrients is important. Getting enough sleep, doing the right exercise, da, 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 da. It's all important. So be very careful. If you're following people, here's a little tidbit of advice. If you're following somebody who is fixated on one particular topic and it's really all they talk about, I think that I'm not to say that they're not valid, not to say that they haven't got really great information that's incredibly important, but just be careful because you don't want to get fixated yourself. Make sure you're following enough people that are talking about enough things that you're reminded that all these things are important, or follow the people who are really reminding you to do all the things, right? Again, when somebody has a hammer, like a specialist, even in the functional medicine space, I'm a specialist in the gut, I'm a specialist in HRT, whatever the case may be, everything looks like a nail, okay? Case in point, there was somebody who was having some issues with getting up to pee at night. And this person was waking up consistently to go to the bathroom. And somebody in the HRT space was just putting it down to there's a hormonal problem. There is a hormonal problem there, and it's either low estrogen or low testosterone, and that's got to be what it is. Long story short, it turns out it probably was not a hormonal issue. And this person didn't have many hormonal signs that would warrant going on testosterone or estrogen. And what this person did have, though, was high levels of hydrogen sulfide in their gut. And that's a metabolite made by certain bacteria. So what you have to do is you have to fix the dysbiosis in the gut to get that metabolite down, to get that hydrogen sulfide down. And once we got that hydrogen sulfide down, this person was no longer waking up to pee at night very frequently at all anymore. And so I attribute that to gut health, not because it wasn't a hormone related symptom. So that's just one example. I could give you a lot more, like fatigue, for example. Fatigue, a lot of women think that fatigue must come from a thyroid issue, or a lot of women jump to testosterone, right? Thinking it must be testosterone. Some women think replacing estrogen and progesterone will support their fatigue. Listen, yes, thyroid issues become very common in midlife, and if you've got a lot of fatigue, you have to do a full thyroid panel. That's very important, and you got to rule that in or out. But I first and foremost, we want to go to the gut. There's always going to be something to do with your gut. The gut is either generating inflammation or lowering inflammation. And I see a lot of women who have fatigue who have a lot of what we call LPS, lipopolysaccharide. LPS is a very inflammatory molecule that comes from bacteria in the gut. Again, if you have a dysbiotic gut, an imbalance of good and bad bacteria, you're going to make a lot of LPS. And so a lot of these women have high LPS and they have low butyrate. Butyrate is anti-inflammatory, and that can cause a lot of fatigue. That's an inflammatory state for one, so it's causing inflammation, and it can cause brain fog, and it can cause fatigue, and it can cause aches and pains when you have a lot of LPS, right? So not everything is necessarily hormone related, and not everything will necessarily be fixed by hormone replacement therapy, be it thyroid, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's all I want to say. HRT has its place, but just be extremely careful to not assume that HRT will be the magic bullet and it will solve your symptoms, because 9 times out of 10, HRT alone won't. It may support and it may help, absolutely. But if you do not do the foundations alongside that HRT, then problems will arise later. It is not going to miraculously prevent metabolic dysfunction in you, which will occur if we don't work against it. It's not going to miraculously reduce inflammation. That's gut work. It's not going to replete your nutrients to make sure your receptors are working so that those hormones you're taking in can even communicate properly, right? The one thing that that HRT could be a pretty much instant game changer for is if you've got anxiety or troubles getting to sleep. And that's where oral progesterone should be trialed, and trialed quickly. But beyond that, do the foundations, my friends. Otherwise, you are cheating yourself, and you are going to be coming back to your practitioner saying those hormones aren't working, when really they probably are doing a lot for you. It's the foundations that you didn't do that is not working for you. All right. So if you want my help, as always, head to the show notes. You can book in for a 30-minute consult. I can look at your bloods, your testing results. I can tell you what I think is the best next move for you. Or you can have a little look in the show notes. You'll find the programs that I have on offer. And come on over. I'm at Tarathon Wellness now. I changed my handle. So I'm at Tarathon Wellness on Instagram. Come join me there. Jump into my DMs and let's have a chat. Otherwise, I hope you found this helpful. And make sure you're subscribed, share it out to your friends and family, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now. I am not a medical professional, and the information provided in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. I do not have access to your individual medical history or circumstances, so the content discussed here should not be considered as medical advice. Before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or considering the use of supplements, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional or your doctor to ensure it's safe and appropriate for your specific situation. Any decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in.